Okay, so thank you everyone for coming today on a really, really hot day. My name is Alinta. I'm part of the Lilith Trust UK. I'm there with my team and to celebrate the South African Women's Day. Just to give you a bit of background, the Lilith Trust UK is planning the opening of the Anti-Apartheid Legacy Center of Memory of Learning. And we are in a development phase where we are reaching out to the community, to different groups, doing different activities to try to understand what would people want to see in the center, and how we can capture the history of the anti-apartheid struggle in the UK. So I'm here with Rachel, which is our program lead, Nadia, which is she's our research and content lead, and Tapelo, digital and communication lead. And we are really pleased to see you today. This event wouldn't be possible without the National Heritage Lottery Fund. We receive funding from the National Heritage Lottery Fund, but we also have actually 3 commission artists today. But one of the commission artists, Neferati, which is going to present her work. And it wasn't also been possible through the Arts Council and the Burial, Amiel and Normal Melbourne Trust. So we're going to start the evening by showing you the Women's Day film. Then Nefertari is going to introduce her work. And then we were going to screen Murder in Paris. And finally, we're going to have a conversation about the film and the role of women in the anti-apartheid struggle. We're going to have an interval in between as well. Feel free to leave any comments. We have here a board, so where you can leave any comments, about today or the film or anything you want to say about the topic. So I'm just going to actually let my colleague, Rachel, Nadia, to come on stage.
Hi everyone, so just another welcome really from me, and to say thank you to Newington Green Meeting House for allowing us to use this really fantastic space, a place of revolutionary thought, and it's worth having a look at some of the plaques on the side to see some of the people associated with this great space. Just a couple of things. There's an exhibition on at the moment here, upstairs in a small room, about Soweto Pride. So that's really worth having a look at some point during the course of the evening. We'd encourage that. And this clip, it's a very short clip, was made last year for South African Women's Day, today, 9th of August. And it just gives a really very small overview of the importance of the women in the struggle against apartheid. So hopefully that'll just kind of give it some context. And if you want to share any comments or thoughts immediately after, that's fine. Otherwise, it might just feed into discussion later. So it gives you a bit of an idea, okay?
Today we celebrate the tremendous acts of courage and determination by women who have played an extraordinary role in the history of our country. On the 9th of August, the year 1956, more than 20,000 women from all walks of life, of all races, religions, socioeconomic background rallied together to do exactly what Gandhi meant when he said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." Let us celebrate their achievements and thank all the women who are engaged in daily struggle to shape a more equitable future. But despite the gains, our women and girls continue to face systematic racial and gender-based violence and discrimination. Today is a call to all of us, a clarion call to the men and boys of our country, and I think of the world, to build solidarity across racial, class, gender lines, and frontiers.
Recognized anybody from that video. Hopefully you will have all recognized Winnie Mandela. There are also some other activists in there. I think it might be on YouTube, I'm not sure, but Helen Joseph was one, and Adelaide Tambo, and Ruth First, who lived in neighbouring boroughs in London. So there's an obvious connection with this evening's event. I should also point out we have a couple of people associated with the South African struggle here. Going to be biased. I'm going to introduce my dad, who's here tonight. He was one of the Treason Trialists, so he was in 1956 alongside another 155 activists, many of whom were women from different backgrounds, including Lillian Ngoy and Helen Joseph, and many, many others. We've got Professor Gus John, who's a great supporter of the anti-apartheid struggle and struggles around the world, as well as other people that have supported the struggle, Margaret Busby, Luke Daniels, and also we've got Jan O'Malley, who's an activist in her own right, but her husband was one of the London recruits, which hopefully we can talk about later on. So I just wanted to give it some context, and Mama Lindy Bear in the corner, another South African activist, is also here. So hopefully that will give you some idea of the different generations, and we'll introduce the other people who are kind of connected with the struggle a bit later on. But hopefully you will have got some idea from that short clip about what this is about. So it was 1956 when 20,000 women marched to Pretoria, where the parliament was, to protest against the pass laws, which nicely leads me into introducing Nefertiri Asantewaa, who is one of our commissioned artists from the Lily Sleeve Trust, Anti-Apartheid Legacy, who has produced a piece of artwork inspired by the women's struggle, which has not been unveiled before. None of us have seen it, so we're very excited. And coincidentally happens to be a New Beacon colleague of mine too, which I found out. So welcome, Nefertiri. Please share your work.
The brief that caught my eye was actually the 1956 National Women's Day March, and it took me a while before I actually filled out the application to put in for this particular commission, because I really needed to see in my head before starting the piece what I thought it was going to look like before applying. I didn't just want to apply and then I'm struggling, oh my God, what am I going to do if I get the piece? So I've done my research, I've done lots of research, which was really fascinating because I know as a child, I'd heard about apartheid. I was probably around about age 9 when that was sort of taking place, and I just remember seeing things on the news where black people just weren't being treated fairly or nicely in Africa. And that was kind of about all that I knew. So doing the research and finding out about these powerful, brave women who marched to Pretoria against the pass laws, I thought, you know what, I want to bring that to life in my piece. So I hope that you like it. I'm a mixed media artist, so I like to use textures and things to make the piece come out as 3D. So I'll talk you through it once I show it, that this is the piece. And take a closer look. But like I said, I love to use 3D. So the first and foremost thing that I wanted to work on was the actual South African flag. But rather than just create a piece that completely covered the canvas with the flag, I wanted to maybe inject a bit of my own sort of style. And then it was breaking down the colours as to what there's a kind of a general meaning, what the colours represent. So I also read that although it's not been officially documented as that, it's generally acknowledged. So the red representation of the blood loss, the bloodshed, all the killings that have taken place. So I used the red, and I also used sort of circular motions within that. So it kind of given a flow of the blood cells within blood. We've got the white part of the flag, which I believe is representative of the people at that time. So white people, and I chose to put cracked textures in this layer only to represent the sort of cracked or the warped mentality of what apartheid was about. So that it was that that particular system was broken. It was unfair. It was broken, and there was something about it that was grossly wrong. So I chose to use a cracked medium to represent that. We have the blue representing water, again using the different textures that kind of show flow and gives the representation of water. And then the colours that was were recently brought into the flag, because before this flag was chosen, it was just the red, white, and blue colours, and some other country flags, small flags, was represented in that flag. So the ANC colours were then incorporated into the new flag, and then we have the black, the green, and also the yellow. So the kind of meaning of that, the green was to represent the lush, fertile land, and I've chosen to use texture in that just to give the idea of it being trees. If we're looking from a bird's eye view, you have textures in the trees. The yellow or gold to represent the minerals, the richness of the minerals and the gold and the treasures of the land. So although I used yellow, I also highlighted it with gold leaf to show that gold representation, and the black representation of the people, black people. And there I've used some faces to reflect that. Going back to the actual march itself, I've chosen to use, I've got 20 faces of black women in this piece to represent the 20,000 women that took part in the march. And also, again, as you can see, the black and green representing the ANC national colours. And what I also wanted to draw from in terms of the significance of the march was the banners that were being held up and the messages that were on them. So as you can see, a couple of the banners that I'd seen from some of the archival papers were women do not want passes, and with passes, women are slaves and we are slaves. So I really wanted to highlight that as being a significant piece. And of course, then finally dating it, we're looking at 1956 when this happened, and that's how I put all my pieces together. So I really hope you like that representation, and do feel free to take a closer look when you have the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, so we're now going to watch an abridged version of Murder in Paris, which is about the ANC rep in Paris who was assassinated. And I don't want to say too much about the film. I think it's a really powerful film. After the film, we will have a short interval, and then hopefully we'll all come back and be able to have a conversation about the artwork, maybe about the clip we showed earlier, and hopefully the film itself, and share your thoughts and ideas. And we've got some other people here who are working on other art inspired by the South African struggle, so I hope that will feed into the discussion. It is quite light, obviously, in here, but hopefully you'll be able to see the screen. And I wouldn't say enjoy the film, but hopefully you'll find it compelling. Thank you.
I'll just close that door because it's noisy.
Viva this undying spirit of Utosi September, viva. Can we hear that, viva? Viva, viva the undying spirit of Winnie Madikizela Mandela, viva. Viva. Viva the undying spirit of Veronica Sobukwe, viva. Viva. Viva the women of South Africa and their gallant role in the liberation struggle, viva. Viva. And also viva to those present amongst us who played a role in the liberation struggle. Mention was already made of Mr. Joseph, who was part of the treason trial. Can you give Mr. Joseph a mic, please?
Comrades and friends, I thank you very much for inviting me to this event.
Turning around.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I say, comrades and friends, thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I happen to know Dulcie September. She was a marvelous woman. She used to belong to the Unity movement. And she would send a code message to them. There's going to be a police raid. Unfortunately for the Unity movement, they were led by a lot of drunkards. And I will challenge Aziz Pahad in the statements he made about Dulcie. He made some very derogatory remarks about this woman, which I can recall and challenge him if he's around. So that was a total exaggeration. The other thing is that the French government provided free air flights for South Africans who wanted to go to the funeral. But one of the chaps there, a colleague of Tom Becky, took the money from white people and asked them to pay for their fares. The airfares were free for all South Africans to go there. So I was appalled. And he made a lot of the remarks about Dulcie in September. I think it's a pack of lies, and if he's around, I will challenge him. It's all very well saying these things now. What's interesting, neither the Pahads have joined the armed struggle, and they were never trained in the armed struggle. But interesting enough, they got into the positions of the Communist Party. And they had a gathering, a farewell gathering. I was asked to speak to the Pahads not to leave South Africa. I had now moved on to the Senior Congress, and I should try and stop them because they were short of cadres. So I tried to meet them, and they kept on dodging me. So when they say that they took part in the struggle, I can tell you it's a sham. We knew who took part in the struggle. I myself was a member of Mkhonto Wesizwe. I was a member of the Indian Congress. And we recruited people very, very quietly. When the Pahads had a farewell party, they invited some of their friends. And it turned out one of the friends informed the security police. That's how they were arrested. And the magistrate said, we'll convict you, but because you say you want to go to England to continue your studies, I'll let you go, but your conviction still stands. I heard those distinct words myself. So when I hear Aziz Pahad speaking like that, I know the names he called Dulcie, and I found it very, very hurtful. What does it matter who belongs where, as long as you struggle against apartheid? And I knew a lot of people from different movements. We'd never, ever discourage them. We had to take care. So some of us paid a very heavy price and landed in jail. But what we said to people was very, very important. Never argue about their religion. Never antagonize people, because the whole world is full of religious people. That's their choice. If they believe in this, the other, then you must leave them. That's their wish. They believe there's a better life in heaven.
Thank you,
But respect those views. That's how people feel. And I always felt that way myself. In my background, I come from a very religious family. They came from Kerala. My mother was fluent in Tamil and Swahili. Is that enough? Sorry for it.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sitting next to Mr. Joseph is Mr. Gaston, who was part of the Solidarity Movement. Professor Gaston. I wouldn't imagine that he has anything to say at the minute because he was part of our last event on Mandela Day. To the right, we have Umama Ulindiwe Poso as well. She was also in exile during the tough days. To acknowledge the chairperson of the African National Congress UK, Mr. Jabu Sibeko, as well. And no, I've got a mic here. And while still on the acknowledgements, I needed to speak a bit louder then. Amongst us, two other distinguished guests. We have Tuesday Hostin and June Young, who have both been commissioned to work on our next commission, post anti-apartheid now. When I say us, I mean the Lilies Leaf Trust UK. So we've just asked them if they want to, they can just give us a word or two. She is of Cape heritage, same as Umama Dusi September.
Hi guys, my name is Tuesday Houston, like the day. I am from Cape Town and I am from the Cape
Town.
Is it going? Okay, cool. And I'm from the Cape Coloured Heritage as well. And I was introduced to the commission by my autistic friend, June, like the month. So we are the day and the month. I think when we came across this commission, it was last year, and we weren't ready to approach such a delicate and I think for me difficult project to approach. And as the deadline was coming to a close very recently, we decided to buckle down and we focused on Dulcie. And I only hope that the work that we put in together is going to bring light and some hope to the type of work that she did. And we will be focusing on the detention centers and the immigration of women. June, would you like to?
Hi, hello, my name is June Ting. And I'm a collaborator with Tuesday on this commission. It's called Anti-Apartheid Now. And what we're hoping to, and just kind of quickly add on to what Tuesday has already spoken, our commission specifically is trying to investigate the contemporary resonances of the anti-apartheid movement in the UK. So what does it look like? What does it look like to consider the legacy of contemporary activism today? That kind of following this trajectory of the social justice movement against the racial injustice, for instance. And so what we're trying to do is to combine two historical moments. One is the moment of the women activism, a lot of them are South African women living in exiles in London, protesting and demonstrating outside of South African House across the streets in Trafalgar Square about freeing women political prisoner, which Dulcie September was one. And so we're kind of focusing on her and her colleagues' activism at the time, as well as contemporary activism of freeing asylum seeker, migrant women, and refugee women who are currently imprisoned in detention centers across England. And to think about what if we consider these immigration detainees are also political prisoners who Dulcie September was one before. So kind of looking at these kind of two struggles and ask kind of difficult questions about how can we kind of keep on and continue this kind of momentum of activism and this legacy, and really just think about what are the kind of contemporary struggle that are informed by this kind of history that is actually here today with us in everywhere we see here in London. So hopefully we'll produce a dance document. By the way, we're from background in dance, so hopefully the film will be combining documentary, interviews, archival materials, and dance and movement, particularly thinking about making choreographies outside of the Women's Detention Center in England, as well as outside of the South Africa House, which is a very prominent place of demonstration during the anti-apartheid movement. Yeah, so we're at the very beginning stage of the research and development, and hopefully you will see our work, which will be in a digital format in the film early next year. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. The gentleman who was speaking now is Mr. Mutupeng from the South African High Commission. He was there as well. He was very emotional during the film because he actually met Craig Williamson in Lagos, Nigeria, and while he was still underground with Umkhonto weSizwe. So we are very blessed to have all these people here, and I'm not going to be doing any justice by not having two sentences from Mr. Professor John, please.
Thank you, comrade. Comrades and friends, it's difficult to speak after that film. And the other stuff that we've been reflecting upon in the last period. I rather like your position that you're adopting in relation to those installations, connecting the present with the past and imagining a better future. Because it seems to me that when one reflects upon this film, upon the film Winnie, which we discussed at the BFI a couple of weeks ago, and all of that, the Americana film and the discussion that followed that, it's very painful to take all of that in against the backcloth of what's actually happening in South Africa today. It seems to me that in relation to liberation struggles everywhere, including in this country, that's moving swiftly from authoritarianism to a kind of looming totalitarianism, it's very important for us to remember the relationship between what activists do on one issue, for example, the issue of racial oppression and the issue of gender oppression, and how those things enable us to find new ways of being in the world and new ways of interacting with one another so that we can together build a better future, and one that does not allow that past to effectively constrain the way our children and our children's children would build a future without all of these systems of oppression and subordination and marginalization and the rest of it. So I think it's very important on this day, and in relation to all the other commemorations we'd be doing. Next Tuesday we'll be outside the embassy dealing with the issue of marijuana and protesting about that on the 10th anniversary. It's very important that we do those things, but also that we enable as many young people as possible to understand the background, the detail, and how it relates to their lives and their efforts to build a better future.
Viva the London Anti-Apartheid Movement, viva. Viva the International Solidarity Movement, viva. And thank you to them as well. Just to wrap things up, I will invite one of my colleagues to give the way forward.
Actually, we just wondered if there's any comments or anything else anybody wants to contribute in terms of what they felt about the film, or any questions that maybe one of us can help answer. Have you got a mic here? Did you want to ask something? Yeah.
The film was very interesting. The film was very interesting. But I can't help but wonder, I mean, I kind of missed the context within the film. I know it's around the time of the Cold War, but aren't you worried that this film is a bit of a red herring when it comes to the work that Dulcie September was doing when fighting against the apartheid regime? Because it wasn't much about her work as a social activist within South Africa itself, which was unfortunate. So, thanks.
Just to respond to that, this is, you saw some pauses in the film and the sound wasn't synced because this is an abridged version. The actual other version is much, much longer. We thought on a summer's day it might be a bit too long. I don't know. I mean, maybe because some of us were connected with the movement, we understood her involvement, and certainly when her friends from Cape Town, from what was then the Unity movement, were talking about her involvement, I think that gives it some context. And she has a local relevance as well, because when she came here and worked for IDAF, that was an Islington organisation. So I mean, obviously it can't do her justice. I mean, really what the legacy is, why on earth hasn't this crime, this murder, why has nobody been held to account? And the kind of complicity of world leaders, I think, is really important. And often people don't talk, we talk about a lot of assassinations of men, but very rarely do we hear about women. I mean, Ruth First was another person, a white comrade who was assassinated. So I think it's important to shine a light on. And with all these films, I think it's difficult. We expect a lot for them, that they should deliver everything and answer everything. But, you know, we've got some people here tonight who are revisiting that theme. And so, you know, there's always room for adding extra things to that discussion. You know, my father and I'm not sure if anybody else in the audience here, we went to, I don't know if Mama Lindy Ware was there as well, but we went to the funeral in Paris. And it was actually quite, as horrific as it was incredible to see the solidarity from workers in Paris coming together. And, you know, when a country that has a great deal of history of being racist and colonizers was really encouraging. So I think there's a petition, I should mention, that's available, and we'll email you all the link for Justice for Dulcie. And there's a campaign to get this reopened and really, you know, expose the truth of this kind of murderous collaboration between big states. So I take your point, but I think, you know, it's highlighting her, and it gets more conversations going, is what I would say, hopefully. Was there anything else anybody wanted to add or ask or comment on? Anyone? Yep. Yes, I'm not sure if the longer version. This film was just we had a couple of screenings, I think late last year, and it hasn't had a wide distribution. It's not that old. This particular version has been used in educational settings, really, but we thought for this evening we would just show this shortened version. But hopefully there will be screenings, and we can perhaps collaborate with some of the people at African Odysseys at the BFI, see if they would screen it, because I think it should be seen, and you know, the longer version as well. Yeah, I'm not sure that it's on YouTube in its entirety. Anything else anybody wants to add before we close? No? Okay, so there are some refreshments at the back. We hope that you will take the time that remains, because we finished a bit early, to go and have a look at the Soweto Pride exhibition upstairs, which links in, and just get a sense of what goes on here and some of the other activities. And we definitely want people to put some comments, please, on post-it notes so that we can feed back and you know, think about what else we can programme for future events. I think my colleague wants to add something.
Yeah, thank you, Hulk, for coming. Obviously, you can see the exhibition. Just to let you know, so we need your feedback. So we have some feedback form for you to fill in, but also if you go outside, there is a QR code, so you can, you know, do it online. It's really important, as I've mentioned at the beginning. This is part of a project to open the center, the Anti-Apartheid Legacy Center of Memory and of Learning. And we are doing all those outreach activities to understand what we will do in the center and what type of activities, and also what, you know, people want to see. So this is really part of a project to trace this legacy. So please fill the form. As Nadia said, you can have a drink and you know, stay and visit the exhibition. And thank you again. And I just want to thank again the National Heritage Lottery Fund, the Arts Council, and all the artists, the commission artists that came and you know, talked about that work. So thank you very much, and my team and the teams. Thank you.
On behalf of the American Committee, the next Tuesday outside South African House at 4:30, there'll be a rally to mark 10 years of the Americana massacre. And we're inviting as many people as possible to join us for that. It's a rather chilling story. And it says a hell of a lot about the ANC and where it got to, and how the workers were treated by their own union, the NUM, and indeed by the government succeeding with the Zuma regime and so on. So, do join us, because we want to show solidarity with the survivors of the Americana massacre and the workers in the mines in South Africa today. Next Tuesday, 16th of August, 4:30, South Africa House.
One final thing, sorry, I didn't realise that Dan and Alex, who are the photographers of this exhibition upstairs, are here. Here they are. And did you want to say a couple of words?
Thanks so much, and it was a really wonderful film, and thank you. Please do feel free to look upstairs. Feel free to take drinks upstairs. So upstairs are pictures I took at 2018 at Soweto Pride, and extracts of interviews, and it's black women talking about homophobic and gender-based violence in South Africa. So please do have a look, and thank you.
So glad you're here. Thank you. All right, we've finished. Thanks very much, everyone.